Now that Encanto has won the 2022 Best Animated Feature at the Oscars, I'll be sharing with you guys my tier list of all of the Best Animated Feature winners at the Oscars. How's it going, movie watchers? Thank you guys for stopping by my channel. We are on tiermaker.com. I will be sharing with you guys my tier list for all of the Best Animated Feature winners at the Oscars, including the newest film, Encanto. I'm on tiermaker.com. Here I created a list of all of the films dating all the way back to the early 2000s with the newest one, Encanto. This is going to be fun because there's like a wide variety of different studios from Disney and Pixar. There is Sony in here as well. Mostly Disney and Pixar is in here, but it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of go through and talk about each of these films. If you haven't been on tier list before, the S is the best of the best. These are just the best films. A, films are great films. B, they are good films. C, they're okay. And D, they're not very good. They were nominated and won Best Animated Features, so most of them are really good films. I will start off by saying that none of these films are bad. None of these films are terrible. So nothing's going to go into the D category here. So we're just going to leave that blank. But there will be some films in the C category here. They're just okay. But we're going to go in order that is on here. I don't think this is... It might be alphabetical. I think when you put them on Tier Maker, it does make it alphabetical. But we're going to start here with Big Hero 6. Big Hero 6 is such a great film. I really enjoyed this movie. I did a Disney animated tier list and a Pixar tier list, so you're going to kind of see similar thoughts to that tier list, but this has just such a fun superhero feel to it. Everybody kind of learning their abilities, the technology within it, and that relationship between Hero and Baymax is such an adorable relationship. Baymax is such a cool Disney character, but when we are introduced to Baymax, it's very personal to Hero because of his older brother, and so that emotional connection between the two is very strong and really carries throughout the entire film. Next up, we have Brave. Brave's going to go into the okay category. You know, when I first saw this, I thought it was just like a really, really great Pixar film. But the more I watch it, the more I'm just kind of frustrated with it. It's really just like two separate stories. The story about Merida and her wanting to be in control of her own fate is something worth telling, and if it would have focused on that for the whole entire film, it would have been something just completely different. But when you get to the middle half of the film and it's about her and her mother becomes a bear, that's when the story about Merida controlling her own fate halts, and then now it's a story about mother and daughter. Pick one, just stick with it, and we would have had a completely different film. The animation's great, the music's great in here. Merida is an enjoyable character, but the two stories in here are just battling against each other, and it doesn't really tell a cohesive story. Next up, we got Coco. Coco is a great film. Such a beautiful story about family and legacy that's told in such a meaningful way. It's a beautiful looking film with a very emotional ending to it. You are connected to this story about family. You see Miguel's love for his family and wanting to know more about his family. It just carries throughout this film. It explores family to the best it can, and Miguel's connection with them and wanting to know more about them. It's just such a touching film. Beautiful animation, very fun characters, one of their best Pixar films. Just been Disney so far. Looking at this list, we don't get to something else till Happy Feet. But next up is Encanto. Encanto, the newest Disney film and the newest Best Animated Feature winner, and that's a great film. I really like Encanto. Mirabel is such a likable character. Her family has powers, but she doesn't, but she still wants to be part of her family, It's so inspiring. I really like the family in here, and all of like the musical moments that are focused on the families, like her older sisters and the songs they get. Opens up with that really great song about her family, but understanding your role in a family and everybody else is a little bit different than you is such a strong story to tell, and a story that people can easily relate to. And Mirabelle is a character that's wanting to move forward. She's wanting to find her place. She wants to help out her family, and it's told in a way that makes this character stronger than how she was introduced in the beginning of the film. So filled with great music, great animation, a great character. This was an easy choice for me for best animated feature. I personally would love to see Mitchell's versus the Machines, but I did think that Encanto was going to win, and I was right. It is deserving of its award. So we got 3 so far in the great category there, and 1 in the okay. Up next is Finding Nemo. We're going to shoot that straight up there to the top. The S, one of the best Pixar films. I talked about this when we had my Turning Red Pixar tier list. It's just a fun story, a fun journey. Marlin and Dory, as they are looking for Marlin's son Nemo. 2 separate stories going on here. Marlin and Dory, very exciting, very fun. That's when we introduce a lot of the iconic Pixar minor characters. And then we have Nemo in the dentist office. That is a lot of fun too. The journey to find his son, and he's never giving up, is something I would do for my own children. And as a father now, I appreciate this film even more. It's just such a touching film. It's funny as can be, really likable characters, beautiful animation for when it was released. It still stands as one of the best Pixar films. Next up, another Disney film is Frozen. Frozen is good. I've grown to not like Frozen as much as I did the first time I saw it. My daughter loves watching Frozen, Moana, Tangled, and the more I watch Frozen, the more I'm frustrated with the characters, mostly Elsa. She is just self-centered. She is obnoxious. I just really can't stand the character of Elsa. And it's not the music or anything. I do think the music is very catchy. I just don't like the character of Elsa. Anna is great. She is there trying to help out her sister. And even in the second film, Elsa is like the same character. Very self-centered. It's all about her. She cares like less. She doesn't really care about what is happening to the other people within the story. And that makes it very frustrating to watch this film. But I really like the other characters, Sven and Olaf and Kristoff, Anna. They're all really likable characters. Just the story of Elsa is just one of the frustrating things for me when it comes to Frozen. Great animation, great songs. It's a catchy story. It's a fun, simple story, but Elsa's story at the front of it all is probably the hardest part for me to enjoy. But it's a good film. Next up, we got Happy Feet. I have never really cared for Happy Feet. It's not a terrible film by any means. It's always weird that the director of Mad Max was the one who directed this film. It's just an okay film. I just remember when it was released and there was so much hype about it. This little penguin dancing, and I just was confused with the hype for this film. I just really never cared for it. It's not, like I said, not a terrible film, but it's not a great film either. It's just kind of boring. Yes, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of dancing, but that can't really save this film for me. I did watch it recently in preparation for this video, trying to catch up on some of the films that it's been a while since I've seen it. This including Rango and Wallace and Gromit. Those are ones I feel like I haven't seen in a while. But Happy Feet, just a boring film. Yes, the penguins are cute. Yes, there's music. Yes, there's dancing. But it's just so repetitive and so dull. That's how I can best explain Happy Feet, is that I could watch it and just completely forget about what is happening after I watch the film. People like it, but I'm not one of them. Next up, another Disney Pixar film. We got Inside Out. That's going straight up there to the A. Really emotional film. A very personal, very smart Pixar film, dealing with your emotions and how you can control your emotions. Or if you don't have joy or sadness, how would you act? And my school that I work at loves using the characters of Inside Out to kind of talk about your emotions. And ever since that film came out, it's been like a staple in elementary schools to talk about your emotions. But these characters are a lot of fun. Bing Bong has one of the most emotional moments in a Pixar film, but it's just so smart and relies on two polar opposite emotions and characters. They have to understand each other. And when you're sad, you have to understand that there's joy in it too, or when there's joy, there's could be sadness as well. It's a very smart film and one of their best. It's just a fun film. It's a fun film with amazing characters, and the emotions in here play such an integral part to the film. Next up is Rango. Rango's an okay film. It made a lot of money, and it's a great looking film. It's just soulless. It's just dull. Relies on its themes and its tone and its setting, and it feels unique in that aspect of a animated Western film filled with like lizards and other animals. But it's just a completely lifeless, soulless film that I just really don't care about. And it's another one of those films that people just really, really like, and I just don't understand why. It's mainly these two films, Happy Feet and Rango. I just don't understand the love for it. But I mean, people like it, and I respect that. But Rango, great voice acting and great motion capture, and it's a good looking film, but really not memorable characters or memorable story at all. Next up, we got Ratatouille. Ratatouille is a good film. It's another one of those films that people really like, but I just can't really buy into it. I do think it's a good film, and I do like watching Ratatouille. And Remy is such a fun Pixar character, but it's a film that I don't find myself wanting to watch over and over again. When I think of like Pixar's films that are best on rewatch, like Nemo and Monsters Inc. and the Toy Story films, it's not Ratatouille for me. I do like that relationship that is explored in here, and I think it's a great film about chasing your dreams, but other than that, there's not too much to it that I do love. Next up, we got Shrek. Shrek's the best. It's iconic. It's one of the best animated films of all time. Shrek is just such a fun character. Donkey is amazing. The voice acting in here is some of the best in an animated film, with Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy. They fit those roles so well. It's just a hilarious film that you really just try to understand the character of Shrek. He's an ogre that's misunderstood. He's stuck in his ways, but it's a chance for him to develop as a character. It's probably one of the funniest, looking at these movies, one of the funniest films on this list. And it's a film that I've seen so many times. I saw it in theaters. It was actually when they replayed it in theaters. It was the first film my daughter saw in theaters, and her and I and my best friend, we went and saw Shrek, and I just forgot how hilarious this movie is, and the voice acting is absolutely perfect. So Shrek will always stand the test of time. It is one of the best. Next up, we got Soul. Soul is a great film. It feels very similar to Inside Out. It's a very emotional film, but it talks a lot about like your purpose in life. It gets very deep to the point where you just start to cry and question your own life and your own purpose and everything. But Joe Gardner and 22 in here, that relationship that develops in here is absolutely beautiful, and they have different opinions about different things, and they just have to come to a common understanding. It's told in such a touching, beautiful way. It's a great looking film, as really any Pixar film is, but it's a film that's truly deep, but also told in a fun but meaningful way. It's a very memorable film that makes you it draws you back to its themes and its messages so much that you just want to revisit for the things that it does cover. So it's a great film and very deserving of its award. Next up, not a Pixar film. We got Spider-Man, the animated version, obviously. This is a great film exploring different takes on Spider-Man, with Miles Morales was so cool, and having classic Peter Parker in here. It's a film that offers very unique animation, fun, exciting moments, different takes on the Spider-Man villains as well, but it's a lot about like believing in yourself, and it really stays true to the classic Spider-Man story of like this underdog, someone to root for, and learning their abilities, and just really becoming tapping into that character Spider-Man. And so seeing all the different Spider-Mans kind of help out was just so fun. As a huge fan of Spider-Man, the character in the comic, this was such a great film, and gave me everything I would want from an animated Spider-Man film. Multiple Spider-Man characters, multiple Spider-Man villains, told in a way that feels true to the character in the comics, but also trying to be something new, and it completely works. I can't wait for the sequel. I hope it is just as good as this. But with all the films that are coming out this year, it's got some competition, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen next year at the Oscars with the sequel. Next up is Spirited Away, one of the best Studio Ghibli films ever. This film is perfect in every sense of the word. Really explores this chaotic, bizarre world, and this young girl in here just is so interested in everything that is going on, but at the same time is a little afraid and wants to kind of go back to everything being normal. But Hayao Miyazaki's Spirited Away is, like I said, one of the best Studio Ghibli films. My favorite being Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro, but Spirited Away is up there. It's creepy at times, it's disturbing, it's beautiful. The animation is just, to this day, when you look at all these films, and it being one of the earliest ones, it's crazy how good this film looks. And so Spirited Away is always going to be one that I want to revisit when I think of Studio Ghibli films, with its darker themes, creepy moments, and the world that is perfectly explored in here. It is one of the best. Next up, we got The Incredibles. And looking at this list, there's only one other film that's not Disney or Pixar. The Incredibles. That goes to the A. Family, fun film, superheroes. What more do you want? It's just perfect. It's funny. It's got moments that feel like just a classic family, but they got superpowers. It's the best. It's a film that feels emotional at times. It's action-packed. It's hilarious. It's really got it all. One of the earlier Pixar films, and it's really just stayed one of the best for years. Next up, we got Toy Story 3. That is the best Toy Story film. I will stand by that. I cried twice in this film. It gives chance for Woody to kind of have a purpose and explore a future that he may not want to be a part of, and he has to realize things about himself and growing up and moving forward. Told in such a heartwarming way, but it's also just very emotional as you grew up with these characters and you're seeing a change. It's really hard to accept, but it's such a good film. Toy Story 4 just is not as good, but it is a good film, but nowhere as near as Toy Story 1, 2, or 3. I didn't really think this film was necessary. I do think that there are some good moments in here, especially coming from Woody as he is trying to find like a new purpose at this point in his life. The new characters are fun, with Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key voicing a couple key characters, and Keanu Reeves in there as well. But Buzz and the rest of the characters really don't do much in here, as this film is really centered on Woody, and Forky is just a fun, new, likable character. The film being about finding your purpose is great for the Toy Story films, even though I think that the third film ended on a great note. I didn't think the fourth film felt very needed, but it still was a good film. Next up, we got Up. The film started off as emotional as can be, and by doing that, you felt the journey to be very personal to you felt the journey was very personal, and you just accepted everything that was going to happen with Carl, and you just was on board with it, even how ridiculous it really was. you just wanted to see this old man just get what he wants because of that very, very, very strong opening, very emotional ending, very emotional beginning to the film. And so I really like the story in here, even if it feels a little bit ridiculous at times. It's very personal to the characters, and you just have to buy into it because of that beginning. Russell in here and Doug the dog, they're very funny characters, and Carl is just kind of at his own pace, and Russell's just tagging along for the ride. It's just an odd Pixar pairing, but it works. Next up, we got Wallace and Gromit. I'm a big fan of the Wallace and Gromit characters. I didn't think this film was the best thing ever, but it is an okay film. It's not a bad film by any means. It's just an okay film. Very simple Wallace and Gromit film, filled with some zany animation and quirky moments for the characters. It's not my favorite Wallace and Gromit story, but it is an enjoyable one. Next up, we got WALL-E. Much like Ratatouille here, it's a film that I just didn't really buy into the hype. I think Eve and WALL-E have an adorable relationship, and the end kind of where he's got the plants and like could bring new life on Earth is a fun, very touching moment to the end of the film. The kind of beginning of the film when he's just it's kind of aimless and he's just exploring Earth and collecting everything, I thought was simple enough to kind of start the film, and then transition into having Eve in there, and then kind of picking up the story and having the story have a purpose, and having WALL-E have a purpose too. I thought was a nice transition for the film. So it goes there in the B category. It's okay. It's a good film, but not my favorite Pixar film. And the last one, a Disney film, is Zootopia. Zootopia is great. I like the kind of themes of predator versus prey, and everybody's different, and we just kind of gotta accept everybody for who they are and embrace one another. And I really like that in here, and seeing Judy and Nick Wilde team up in their predator and prey, and understand each other is a great story. And it's filled with Zootopia. That's a world that you just want to explore a lot of, and you do get a lot of different parts of Zootopia. But that mystery in here is also what keeps the viewers like me engaged with the film and wanting to stick to the end. So there you guys have it, all of the best animated feature winners with Encanto on this tier list. So now we get to rank them. Happy Feet being the worst one there, then Rango, then Wallace and Gromit, then Brave. Then we'll go with Toy Story 4, then Frozen, then Ratatouille, then WALL-E. Then we'll go with Zootopia, and then Encanto. No, this is Encanto here. Encanto, Zootopia, Encanto, Soul, Coco, Big Hero 6, Inside Out, Spider-Man. Then up here, I think Up's perfectly fine right here. And even Incredibles, Finding Nemo there. Spirited Away there. Shrek, number 3. Spirited Away, number 2. Toy Story 3 coming in as the best. So Happy Feet being the worst of them all. Even though it's not a bad film, it's just there. And then Toy Story 3 being the best. So there's my tier list of all of the best animated feature winners. Very curious about next year. We'll have a couple Pixar films like Turning Red and Lightyear, but we also got the Spider-Man sequel coming out as well. The Minions film, I don't know what's going to happen with that. The Mario film, there's a lot of great animation content coming out this year that I'm very curious to see what the 5 will be next year. So leave your tier list down below. What is your favorite best animated feature winner, and what is your least favorite one as well? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to see more tier lists like this, just let me know which ones you'd like me to do, and I could possibly get to one of them for you. So stick around for more up and coming content like this. My name is Just Watching Movies, and you guys stay classy, YouTube.